Hi all, I'm Satya, co-founder at Amnic. Very excited to show you a demo of Amnic AI. Let's say I want to understand the top 10 services that I'm spending on the cloud cost. I could just go and say, give me the top 10 services cost. Now, Amnic will interpret it and then it'll come back and say like, now I have asked for a very ambiguous question. For example, give me top 10 cost. So what it'll do is it'll come back and ask me like, okay, for which month is it asking? So for example, it says, can we look at your top 10 services cost for March 2025, right? So now it will crunch the data, irrespective of the cloud, it will pull the top 10 services cost and it'll actually display it over here. It's a multimodal. So it can actually give you textual, it can give you tabular, it can also give you a graph in terms of how each of these top 10 services costs are actually present. So now that we have got the cost, you can actually see that there is a tabular. It also understands and explains what each of these things gives recommendations, and as well as it actually gives you all the cost, right? But now I want to dig deeper and see like, okay, why is my AWS cost high? I could say, give me top 5 services on AWS cost, and it can actually go and do it. Or let's say I found that my EC2 cost is the highest one. I can go and say, give me AWS compute instance cost. Now, I'm not telling that it's an EC2 cost or anything. I'm just telling, give me all the compute instance cost. So Amnic AI can understand your natural language and it interprets that, okay, compute instance in AWS is actually EC2 instance, and it will actually go and query for your EC2 instance cost and present you what's the cost of that one. So imagine you are actually sipping a cup of coffee and suddenly you get a message saying that in 10 minutes, you need to present a report to your CFO of your cloud cost for last month. Now, you can just come to Amnic and then say that, hey, I need a cloud cost report for last month to be present to my CFO. Amnic AI understands the context that you want to present this to your CFO. So it generates all the chart that a CFO would want. Now, let's say you could also ask, okay, give me a dashboard to be presented to my CTO. Then it would understand more towards, okay, I need to now present more of utilization than actually just the cost, right? So it's context aware. So that way it can understand the intent and create the reports based on who is the end user for this one. So now that we have got the cost, it's actually giving top 5 services cost, and then it gives you a daily trends, gives you recommendation in terms of where potential optimizations are, and then it can actually say trend in terms of how your cloud cost is performing, which your CFO would want to understand. Now let me show you, like, for example, let's say you have been running the cloud cost and suddenly you see that there is a spike, and that's where Amnic governance agent comes in, where you could look at the spike and then say, okay, do an RCA for it. And it can actually take that context, and no matter which services, which cloud it is from, it can actually take the entire data and do an RCA and tell you up to a resource and a region level where it is spiking. But it could also understand that there was a deployment or there was actually a spike in the traffic. So it could correlate that and tell you like, hey, your spike happened because there was a traffic increase, versus, hey, this deployment happened. After that, we started seeing spike on the service. And that's where Amnic governance agents lets you actually debug and do an RCA 90% faster. So today we saw a demo of multiple Amnic AI agents. We saw our insight agent performing queries. We saw our governance agent doing an RCA of anomaly. And we saw our reporting agent creating reports. With this, what we have seen is professionals actually save about 20 to 24 hours of their repetitive tasks. And then our governance agent can actually do RCA 90% faster, and our reporting agents can create reports 10x faster.